Hello everyone, my name is Daniel Parker. I'm a live production director and digital content producer. Today, I want to talk to you about reimagining corporate content through storytelling. Now, I know it sounds easy, but there are a few key theme areas that I want us to really focus on here. One, content is evolving and so are corporations. Now, I know when we work with a lot of clients and sometimes we think that, hey, they don't really get the creative side of things. Most of the content may be a bit dry. How do we bring life to this thing? Well, corporations are also starting to take that approach as well. They're looking at how are our audiences, both internal and external, viewing our content, and how do we make our content more compelling for them to be able to take actionable items out of those? And so some of the things that they're doing is taking a more humanized approach. Most of those things involve more of a creative experience and also more immersive experiences. The other thing that we want to think about here is the big picture and how do we actually fit into the big picture when we're creating? Sometimes it's being more collaborative. Sometimes it's help driving the idea to its goal. So to get started, I want us to think outside of the corporate box. Now, I know it sounds easy, but sometimes it's not as easy as it may appear. And whenever we create a brief, sometimes we're looking at this and saying, okay, this is not my cup of tea. You know, if I were to choose something that was my passion, I'll be doing something in anime, I'll be doing something, creatively, I'll be designing a shoe, I'll be designing clothes. But sometimes as a creator, your job is to help translate the idea for someone who may not have the creative abilities to translate the ideas. That's when it comes to our team and us to be able to translate those ideas for them. So one of the things I think that's really important, especially when we're working on presentations, if there's a 100-slide presentation that needs to be concise and delivered to an audience, one thing that we can do is help them with the visualization of those presentations. Now, us as content creators and story producers, we know about storyboarding, and there's always a beginning, a middle, and an end. For us to help them deliver their content, we can help structure their story in a similar manner. One, we can take away some of the sentences and make it more visual and help drive the whole action to be a beginning, a middle, and an end. Now, there's also times where we may need to take a news approach where we put the most important information at the top and be able to explain the rest of it at the bottom. The other thing that we can do is sometimes make these experiences multisensory. Now, multisensory experiences can be a variety of different things, and these are really important when you're having an in-person live experience, as well as you're having a virtual experience as well. The other thing that we can think about is the experiential side of things. Now, I showed this example of Tim Cook here, and he's talking through a product launch. Now, we think about the Apple product launches, and they're really synonymous with evolution and big ideas, but they're also very simple, and they take the viewer and the audience through a journey. They take them through the journey of how does a phone work, what are the new features of this phone, and what makes these features in this phone better than everything else that's on the market. A lot of times it's just having something very simple and something very visual and allowing people to be able to go through a journey with the speaker. And that's our job as content creators, to help the speakers take the user along a journey. Now, I have a few examples here. And the first one I want to show here is, we see the slide on the left. Now, the first thing that comes to mind is this is overly crowded slide. It's too busy, font's too small to read, the colors don't work. And I mean, I'm not a graphic designer, but I can see this is just a terrible way to utilize space. And we see the slide on the right where it's simple, it's clean, it's concise. You have driving points there. You have things that the audience can be able to take away immediately when they look at the slide. There's also not a bunch of text on screen, which requires the audience's attention throughout the entirety of a presentation. Now, I've produced a lot of live events and a lot of virtual webinars, and I've seen many times when speakers will present their slides and it's just filled with text. The audience is too busy reading the slide that they're not listening to what the speaker is saying. Now, that may be by design, but sometimes I think it's better for those who are going to be experiencing something to actually experience it and not feel as if their attention is taken into other directions. It's our job as content creators to help those individuals drive that experience so that way the audience can experience it the way that they should experience it, not leave it up into interpretation. The other thing that we should think about here is if we're in a live experience and we're creating content, so whether we're doing some video components, we're doing graphic design, or we're helping build presentations, what is it that the audience is going to do from an immersive standpoint, and how is it experiential? Now, this slide here is more of an exaggerated view of it, but you think about this. When someone's at a live event or they're at a live conference, what is it that they're engaging with? Are they just sitting back and watching someone speak, watching a few individuals speak and present didactic lectures? Or are they taking something out of it? Is it something that they can be able to take that's tangible? Maybe it's engaging in real time and chatting with the speakers. Maybe it's the way that we design the actual space so that way the audience can be a part of it and feel as if, hey, I'm a part of this presentation in this lecture. Ultimately, we want to make sure that whatever we're doing when we're crafting experiences and we're crafting content, that we're driving it to be able to have some sort of actionable action afterwards. Now, one of the things I thought was pretty great about Coinbase last year's Super Bowl is they had a QR code on the screen. We all may see that is a very simple thing to do. But if you think about the actual idea behind it was, hey, we want someone to drive action right away. We don't want to just have another Super Bowl commercial where it's filled with celebrities that's telling us to buy a product. We want people to go right to the product right away. And that's ultimately what it takes for us as content creators to be able to drive that idea and drive those ideas into actionable responses from an audience. And sometimes when we think about it from a corporate setting, what is it that we ultimately want someone to do? Now, investors may approach it with a different lens. They're thinking about what's the revenue and how are things growing year over year, and they only really care about the numbers. If I'm an internal stakeholder or someone that works for a company, I'm curious to find out what's the big idea? What's happening? How am I seeing this thing and how does it impact me? If you're thinking about some external audiences who may take in the information, why should they be there in the first place? We need to make sure that the content appeals to all of those audiences. And lastly, this brings me to the final point. You are a part of a team. Now, whenever you create content, don't think of things as just a one-off experience or something that's just for a portfolio. Think of this as something that's going to be there for a duration of time. Content now in this age, especially the digital era, is living forever. Something you do in 2023 will be there in 2045. You want to have that same enjoyment and that same passion about the work that you've done today that you will have in 20 years from now. It's really important for you to really put a bit of yourself in every project that you do. Don't think of this as just a one-off and I'm just doing orders of the client. Think of ways that you can make the experience better. And that's by being a content creator and bringing your element of storytelling to the equation. Now, if anytime you come into a situation where you run into barriers, that's where it's important for you to bounce ideas off of your project lead, as well as sometimes look into opportunities to collaborate with the client. If you find that there's opportunities for you to make an impact, make an impact. And you want to leave a lasting impression. Now, I hope that you enjoyed this presentation. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. And as always, continue to create good work.